too many policymakers focus on U.S. policy, U.S. economy. U.S. is the biggest economy in the world, so it's an important subject, but they don't put it in that broader context. They don't look at what's going on in China, Japan, Germany. You can say the EU, but Germany's the driver there, and you have to do that because of the international monetary system. The financial system's connected. My new book Sold Out talks about supply chains. Supply chains were breaking down. Some of that pressure has been alleviated. There's probably more pressure on the way. We can talk about that, but yeah, you really do have to look at the whole world. So just to should maybe take it in the order of the largest economies. The U.S. is almost certainly in a recession. We had the first 2 quarters of 2022 negative GDP growth, 2 quarters in a row. That's the rule of thumb definition of a recession. I understand that it's the decision is made by the National Bureau of Economic Research in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's a panel of, I think, 9, kind of PhD level economists. They haven't said anything yet, so that allows people like Janet Yellen to say, well, there's no recession because the NBER hasn't said so. But in fact, they never do. They often take 9 months or a year sometimes to say, oh, the recession started way back when, like maybe by late this year, December, January, they'll say, oh, a recession started in January 2022. Well, thank you very much. We knew that at the time, but you're taking your time to make up your mind. Third quarter, jury's out. Third quarter's over. The data's not in. You kind of get mixed messages on that. We'll see. We'll know at the end of October. But even if the third quarter is slightly positive, which it may be, you're still sort of flattish for the year. So put aside the debate about whether there's technically recession or not. To get 3 quarters into the year with about zero growth, 2 quarters down, maybe 1 quarter up slightly, we don't know yet. But you're kind of close to zero in the world's largest economy. That's not good. But that's not what's coming. What's coming is a very severe recession, and whether when all is said and done, the umpires, the National Bureau of Economic Research says, well, you had first half wasn't really a recession, but now it is, or you had a double dip recession or whatever. They can call it what they want, but you can see what's coming. Monetary tightening in top of a world where growth is deaccelerating, inventories are sky high. The funny thing about the supply chain is, you go back a year, so kind of this time last year, we all remember headline, supply chain's broken down, Junior's cheesecake can't get cream cheese, they can't make cheesecakes, or the shelves are bare. So all true, that was happening at the time, and that's when I started working on the book. But what a lot of purchasing managers did, and inventory managers, they doubled their orders. They said, well, or tripled the orders. They said, well, if the supply chain's breaking down and I want just a normal amount, I better order 3 times as much or twice as much just to get what I want. And they did. Well, what happened was, by the summer, some of that pressure had been alleviated, and here come the shipments into the warehouses that are twice as much or 3 times as much as what you needed, at the exact same time that the Fed was destroying demand. And so demand drops off a cliff, retail sales drop off a cliff, the warehouses go from being empty to being full to the rafters, and now all that merchandise is sitting there. We've heard this from, Target, I think, was the first one to sound the alarm, but a lot of other, distributors, Dollar General and other stores have said the same thing. So, Nike, just many examples. So what do you do when you're in charge of inventory? You cut prices. You don't want that inventory. It costs a lot of money to keep it in the warehouses, number one. Number two, a lot of it's seasonal. It's like, who wants to buy, summer dress in December? Not too many people. So they just slash prices. So, and that reduces margins and reduces profits. So we're just kind of flying into the face of all that, with the Fed tightening rates into weakness. The Fed will be the last to know. You and I can talk about it. Your viewers will understand it. There are other people, kind of saying the same thing. The Fed will be the last to know, because they're very model driven, and the models are badly flawed, mostly with the Phillips curve, and they're focused on the unemployment rate, which is not a good measure of what's going on in the labor force. So we're flying into a really bad recession, and the stock market's starting to get the message, but you've got this pivot narrative. You can't quite get rid of some of the buy the dips people are still around. So count on them to, buy into what could be a horrendous bear market. You got your buy and hold crowd. Remember in 2001, the NASDAQ dropped 80%. And a lot of people got out, but they said, well, just hold on to it. Well, it did come back, but it took until 2015. I mean, that's a long time. A lot of people died in the meantime. You're waiting 14 years to get back to where you were.